Welcome. This is Basic Music Theory for Folk Musicians. I'd like to thank Creative BC for this opportunity to do some skills sharing. This is one of 4 lessons that will be for musicians who want to play with other people. So we're starting off with music theory, so you have a dialogue and feel comfortable, and we're looking to fill in any blanks. So when you start in roots music, acoustic music, a lot of people have guitars, so I'm using it as a demo. You tune a guitar, often using a tuner. Chromatic means it tunes every note in the musical alphabet. So a chromatic tuner will tune all instruments, but some tuners are only geared for bass, guitar, fiddle, so they're very selective. 440 is what the calibration of A is. That means A is 440 hertz, and you can change that by pushing the buttons on the back, because some orchestras in Europe like 442. The smallest movement of sound in the Western world of music, increment, is called a semitone. So if you went from G up to G sharp, it would be a chromatic move, and that's a semitone. Going up, we say going sharp or sharpening, and going down we flatten, or it's a flat. And the musical alphabet goes like this. This is the whole musical alphabet. G, G sharp, A sharp, B. Now between B and C, there is no sharp. C sharp, D, D sharp, E, F. Between E and F, there's no sharp. F sharp, and back to G. I gotta switch pens. This is the whole musical alphabet. When we use it in fret talk, G, G sharp, A sharp, B, C sharp, D sharp, E, up like that, fret by fret, that's semitones. But a 2-fret move is called a whole step or a whole step or a whole tone. So would be 2 frets, and that's 2 semitones. On a piano, if you see white and black, that's G like to G sharp, and then where you see B and C, there's no black key in between. We reduce the whole thing down to scales. Scales are a select number of notes out of the whole alphabet. We're going to start with the most fundamental, which in our world, which is the major scale. It has 8 notes, so it's called a 1-octave scale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, how all major scales are made up is 2 frets, or tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone. No matter what note you start on of your instrument, if you go 2 frets, 2 frets, 1 fret, this pattern is a major scale. If you start on any other interval, it's called a mode. So you're playing different modes, and they're minor modes. There's mixolydian, Aeolian, Dorian. There's you can study all the modes by name, but you don't have to worry about that for basic folk music. What you do want to know is how these scales work and what they're for. So let's start with the C scale. And if you go up 2 frets from C, you go to D. So it's 2 frets, so D to E, then a semitone, F, then a G, A, B, and then another semitone, C. So that would be your C scale, because you start on C and you go 2 frets, 2 frets, 1 fret, and move it up like that. Let's do a G scale. We're going to do all the basic scales for you right now. G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G. This has an F sharp because if a semitone would be E to F, and then a whole tone would be E to F sharp. Let's do D, the scale of D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, D. Let's do A scale. A, B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G sharp, A. What you should be able to see with this layout, now that we've taken the time to write it out, is C has 0 sharps. The G scale has 1 sharp, and it's an F. The D scale has 2 sharps, and they are an F and a C. An A scale has 3 sharps, F, C, and then G. We are going up, and if you've ever heard of the circle of fifths, we're going up in fifths to create our pattern of how we add our sharps. So the 5th of C was G. So the 5th of G was D. 5th of D is A, so 5th of A is E. Let's do E. E, F sharp, G sharp, A, B, B, C sharp, D sharp, E. So we have 4 sharps and F, C. But I want you to just see how it works. And then we have D. So basically there's this little other funny little thing you can remember this all by. It's Father Charles goes down and ends battle. And then the flats going backwards, battle ends and down goes Charles' father, is the way. It's just a little side one. But knowing how things are put together. So what would be the next one? Let's just do one more. No, let's just leave it there. You can keep going. I'm going to do the F scale for you though, so that you can see how the flats fit in. So we go F and we go up a whole step to G, G, up a whole step to A. Now, because we are going up a semitone here, we can't go to A sharp because A has already been given a value. And that's why the flats were put in there. We have to call this B flat. Going up, we raise everything in sharps, but going down, we call them flats. So G becomes G flat, which is the same as F sharp. E becomes E flat, which is the same as D sharp. So those are the same notes, and same, so we can keep going. This is D flat, and this is A flat. Because we've already used A, we now have to, we can't call this A sharp, we have to call it B flat. And there's your semitone, and then B flat, up a whole, we're back to C, D, E, and then back to our semitone. So that should explain that as you keep going in that direction. By the way, when we go up in, we'll go up in fourths to do our flats, so the next one would be B flat. Now, using that, all of that is the notes where you find the melody. It's the notes that help make up the chords. It's everything. It's the whole little gem of how a song is made up of them. What you do to change this for chord charts to make the chord progression become really easy to read is you are, like say we're doing a song like you are my sunshine, you are my sunshine, my only sunshine, you make me happy when skies are gray, you'll never know, dear, how much I love you, please don't take my sunshine away. Now, I wrote this out in numbers and I'm going to explain what I just did. Way. The sense of resolution is your key. Please don't take my sunshine away. You get to the end note or the sense of resolution in the song, and hopefully it's somewhere in tune. If it's not quite, I'm going to adjust it. Way. Okay, so I was pretty close to an A. Way. And if, so I just started randomly trying to find out what note I ended on using my guitar. So if we're in the key of A, A becomes 1. So you would write key of A. A becomes 1. You would also do a little thing called a time signature, which is, this tells you how many beats per measure. You are my, let me get back into key. You are my 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then when we get to our D chord, our 4 chord, you go to the key of A and you say, what is 4? And there is your D, and you can do your D chord. And then when you come down here and you see 5, you go to your key of A and you go, what's your 5 chord? So no matter what key you sing in, your chord chart never changes because your chord progression is always constant to itself. But remember, singing, you need to be in the right key for you and the song. Not every person sings the same song in the same key because we all have different instruments. So for every singer and every song, there's one best key out of all of these that they sing perfectly. They can hit all the high notes, hit all the low notes. It sounds like the quality, the performance is there. That's your key. That's the key you want to be in. So if you're in the wrong key, say you're supposed to be in G and you're all the way over here in D, it's going to feel either extremely high or extremely low. And using the capo, what a capo does is, say I only know how to play G, C, and D, or say I like the tone of open strings versus closed positions. When you use a capo, say I use the G chord, and I move the capo to the 1st fret, it becomes a G sharp chord. Now when you place your capo, make sure you try and get it behind the fret wire, and then you might need to retune a little bit. But this is a G sharp because we raised it 1 semitone. To raise it another semitone, it makes it an A chord. So we call this playing out of the G shape, but we're now in the key of A because the capo has pitched up. And if we kept going, we would now be in the key of A sharp or B flat. Mommy always told me when crossing the street, C sharp or B flat. If we're on the capo 4, we're in the key of B, which is one of my favorite keys. But remember that in a next video I'm going to talk about, in another video I'm going to talk about how some keys are easy for our instruments and some keys are not. Capo 5, you're in the key of C. Now I'd like to take a second to break down for you how chords work so that you just have an understanding of what's going on in chords. So the melody uses notes of the scale. Chords also use notes of the scale. I had to restart, so we've got to, say we're in the key of A for You Are My Sunshine, and we have our 1, 4, and 5 chord. So in the key of A, it would be A, D, and E. Each one of those, a chord is more than one note together. And a basic chord is made up of 3 notes. It's called the triad. And if it's in A, it would be 1, 3, 5 of A. So it's 1, 3, and 5 of each chord makes 4 of these. So A would be A, C sharp, and E. D would be D, F sharp, and A. E would be E, G sharp, and B. Not all songs stay within these nice major chords of the 1, 4, 5. If you do the 6th chord in the key of A, it'll be an F sharp. So it would be an F sharp. Now normally an F chord is made up of FAC, so an F sharp would be made up of F sharp, A sharp, and C sharp. But because we are in the key of A, we can't use A sharp. So it's just a regular A, which means we've lowered it a semitone. When you take a major chord and you lower the 3rd note a semitone, you make major become minor. So F sharp, A, and C sharp. So this, if it was to be major, would be, now we have to rename it because the A wasn't sharp because we're in the key of A. This song doesn't have a 6th chord, but I want to show you how that works. You use the 1, 3, 5, but you remain still in the key that you're working. And that's how your majors and minors get established and your diminished. And that couple more little notes to help you out. Anytime you add a note outside of the triad, you must rename it. So say you add the flatted 7 to, or say you added a major 7 to the A chord. You would use the A scale and you would add the 7th note, and it's a G sharp. That G sharp is that's a major 7. And so you would have to call it A major 7. But if you go into the roots music, and I want to explain this so you're aware of it, more in the genres of blues and roots and acoustic, we use the flatted 7. So in all of these keys, most of the time, oftentimes, when it comes to a 7 chord or whatnot, the 7 is flatted. So this would become a G, and then we would call that it would look like this, A7. And if we kept it major, it would be called A major 7. If you add the 4th note, you're adding a sus. If you add the 2, you go past the 1, 3, 5, all the way past the 8, the octave. This isn't the same notes. Octaves are the same, but they're not harmony. They're just an octave apart. So if you add the flatted 7, you have to go call it a flatted 7. If you add the 2, sorry, you go past the 1, 3, 5, and you go to the 9. So it would actually be called an A9 chord. And you see how you have to rename all the chords. And that also is how you establish a bit of color to certain genres. If you play major 7s in blues versus flatted 7s, like blues also has flat 3s, flat 5s, you can change all these scales and make them genre specific. Swing uses 6s and 9s, and it's the colorful way. But if you see how a scale is made up, a chord is made up, you can start to identify the more difficult chords, and these are the simple chords when you start within the triad. In the next lesson, we're going to talk more about charting a song and arranging and learning the parts of a song. And then we're going to also learn in another video about harmony singing, and I'm going to do one more about practicing for playing with other people. And in that one, you're going to learn about skills of playing with a metronome, how to record yourself, just to get yourself prepared for leadership in a jam session, things to think about. Really hope you enjoyed this and look forward to seeing you more. Don't forget to stop by jennylester.com if you want more information.